The moment 6 men in black suits surrounded her table, Jasmine Williams knew she'd made a terrible mistake. But it wasn't until the most dangerous man in Seoul sat down across from her and smiled that she realized just how terrible. "You're early," he said in perfect English, his voice smooth as silk and twice as expensive. "I appreciate punctuality." She should have corrected him right then. Should have laughed it off, apologized for the confusion, and moved to the right table. But something in those dark eyes, sharp as broken glass and just as cutting, made the words die in her throat. Have you ever been so scared that your body just freezes? That's what happened to Jasmine in that moment. Before we go any further, if you're already hooked on this story, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think Jasmine should do. And don't forget to subscribe because trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Now, let me tell you how a simple coffee date turned into the most dangerous decision of Jasmine's life. 3 hours earlier, Jasmine had been perfectly content with her ordinary Tuesday afternoon. She was 28, a freelance photographer from Atlanta, and Seoul had been treating her well during her 3-month assignment. The city's energy fed her creativity, and she'd been documenting everything from street markets to high-rise architecture for her portfolio. Her phone buzzed with a text from Derek, her college friend who'd moved to Seoul 2 years ago. "Café Moon. 3 p.m. Got a job opportunity for you. Made us a reservation." Jasmine smiled at her phone. Derek always came through. He'd been the one to suggest Seoul in the first place, helped her find her tiny apartment in Hongdae, showed her which subway lines actually made sense. A job opportunity meant she might be able to extend her stay, maybe even make Seoul more permanent. She arrived at Café Moon 15 minutes early, camera bag slung over her shoulder, her natural hair pulled back in a puff. The cafe was upscale, all clean lines and marble countertops, the kind of place where an Americano cost more than it had any right to. But the lighting was perfect, streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a quiet street in Gangnam. That's when she saw it. A reserved table by the window, little card reading, reserved 3 p.m. in both Korean and English. The light hit it just right, and Jasmine's photographer brain immediately claimed it as hers. Derek must have requested the best seat in the house. She slid into the chair, pulled out her laptop, and lost herself in editing yesterday's shots. A street vendor's weathered hands. Steam rising from tteokbokki. The way afternoon light caught the Han River. She was so absorbed, she barely noticed the shift in atmosphere. The cafe's ambient chatter didn't exactly stop, but it changed. Became quieter. More careful. Jasmine glanced up from her screen just as the door opened. 6 men entered first. Black suits, earpieces, the kind of synchronization that spoke of military training or something worse. They fanned out across the cafe with practiced precision, and Jasmine watched with detached curiosity as one of them spoke quietly to the cafe manager, whose face went pale. Then he walked in. Kang Min-jun was the kind of handsome that made you uncomfortable. Sharp cheekbones, dark hair styled with casual precision, a suit that probably cost more than Jasmine's entire camera setup. But it was his eyes that caught her attention. Cold. Calculating. The eyes of someone who'd seen too much and felt too little. He moved through the cafe like he owned it. Maybe he did. And he was walking straight toward her table. Jasmine's fingers stilled on her keyboard. One of the guards reached the table first, his hand moving to his jacket, but Min-jun raised a single finger and the man stopped immediately. That's when Min-jun sat down across from her. "You're early," he said, and Jasmine's brain stuttered trying to process the situation. "I appreciate punctuality." She blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "I'm Min-jun." His English was flawless, barely touched by an accent. "My grandmother spoke highly of you, though she failed to mention certain details." His gaze swept over her face with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Not hostile exactly. More like he was solving a puzzle, and she was the final piece. "I think there's been a—" Jasmine started, but Min-jun continued as if she hadn't spoken. "I'll be direct. I don't believe in wasting time with pleasantries when we both know why we're here." He leaned back in his chair with the ease of someone who'd never been told no in his life. "My grandmother believes in tradition. Arranged introductions, family alliances, the old ways. I'm sure your family has similar expectations." Alarm bells were ringing in Jasmine's head now, loud and insistent. This wasn't Derek. This was very much not Derek. She opened her mouth to explain, but one of the guards stepped closer, and the words tangled in her throat. The man's hand rested near his jacket, casual but deliberate, and Jasmine had seen enough movies to know what that meant. She managed, her voice coming out smaller than she'd like. "It's all right to be nervous," Min-jun said, and something in his expression softened fractionally. This is unconventional, I know, but our families believe in preserving certain traditions, and sometimes that means uncomfortable conversations over coffee. Our families? Jasmine's mind raced. Who did he think she was? Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with shaking hands. Derek, running late. 30 more minutes. I'm at table 7 upstairs. The words blurred in front of her eyes as reality crashed down. Table 7. Upstairs. She was sitting at the wrong table. This reservation wasn't Derek's. It was his. Jasmine looked up at Min-jun, at the guards stationed at every exit, at the cafe staff who were very carefully not looking in their direction. Her photographer's eye caught details she'd missed before. The way everyone gave this table a wide berth. The deference in the manager's posture when he'd greeted Min-jun. The expensive watch on Min-jun's wrist that she could probably live on for 6 months. I need to tell you something, she said, but her voice came out as barely a whisper. Min-jun's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted. Not anger, exactly, but something colder. Excuse me, Min-jun said, his tone clipped. He answered in rapid Korean, his voice dropping to a register that made Jasmine's spine stiffen. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the authority in them. The danger. While he spoke, Jasmine's brain finally caught up with her body. She needed to leave. Now, just stand up, apologize for the confusion, and walk away before this got any worse. She started to rise from her chair. One of the guards shifted position, blocking her path to the door. He didn't touch her, didn't even look directly at her, but the message was clear. Sit down. Jasmine sat. Min-jun ended his call and turned his attention back to her. But something had changed in his demeanor. The casual pleasantness was gone, replaced by sharp focus. Forgive me, he said. Business doesn't stop for personal matters. Where were we? I was just... Jasmine tried again. Ah yes, you were about to tell me something. He gestured to the waiter who appeared instantly, as if he'd been waiting for a signal. Coffee? Or perhaps something stronger. You look like you could use it. The waiter looked at Jasmine with an expression she couldn't quite read. Pity? Warning? She ordered an Americano because her brain couldn't process anything more complicated. So, Min-jun continued once the waiter disappeared. Tell me about your family business. My grandmother mentioned you work in visual enterprises, but she was deliberately vague. She enjoys her little mysteries. Visual enterprises? Jasmine's photography suddenly felt very small and very inadequate. But the lie was already being built around her, brick by brick, and she didn't know how to tear it down without the whole thing collapsing on her head. I'm a photographer, she said, because at least that was true. Min-jun's eyebrow lifted slightly. Interesting. Not what I expected, but refreshing. Most people in your position would oversell themselves, try to impress me with inflated credentials. He leaned forward slightly. I appreciate honesty. It's rare in my line of work. What line of work? Jasmine wanted to scream. Who are you? Instead, she said, what do you do? I run Kang Industries. We have interests in construction, real estate, import-export. His answer was smooth, practiced. The kind of response that sounded complete but revealed nothing. But I'm more interested in learning about you. Tell me, what brought you to Seoul? The truth bubbled up before she could stop it. A 3-month photography assignment. I'm documenting the city, building my portfolio. 3 months, Min-jun repeated, something flickering across his face. Interesting timeline. And after 3 months, I go back to Atlanta. The words felt heavy in her mouth. Unless something changes. And you'd want something to change? He was studying her again with that unnerving intensity. You'd want to stay? Jasmine thought about her tiny apartment with the broken heating, her freelance income that barely covered rent, the way Seoul had started to feel like home in a way Atlanta never quite had. Maybe, she admitted, if the right opportunity came along. Min-jun smiled, and for the first time it reached his eyes. I like you. You're direct. No games, no false modesty. My grandmother chose well, even if she chose unconventionally. Chose well for what? The question burned in Jasmine's mind, but before she could ask, the cafe door opened again. A woman entered. Mid-20s, designer handbag, the kind of polished beauty that came from expensive salons and personal trainers. Her eyes swept the cafe and landed on their table. Her expression transformed from confusion to fury in less than a second. She stalked toward them, heels clicking against the marble floor like gunshots. What is this? Min-jun's expression didn't change, but Jasmine felt the temperature drop 10 degrees. Soo-yeon, he said calmly. You're late. I'm. The woman, Soo-yeon, looked at Jasmine like she was an insect that had crawled onto her dinner plate. Who is this woman? Why is she sitting at my table? Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Jasmine's stomach dropped as understanding finally, fully crashed over her. This was the blind date. This polished, furious woman was who Min-jun had been expecting, and Jasmine had been sitting in her seat for the last 20 minutes. There's been a mistake, Jasmine said quickly, already pushing back from the table. I'm so sorry, I thought this table was. A mistake. Soo-yeon's voice could have cut glass. Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea what family you've just disrespected? The guards were suddenly more alert, hands hovering near their jackets. The cafe had gone completely silent. Even the espresso machine seemed to hold its breath. That's enough. Min-jun's voice wasn't loud, but it carried absolute authority. He stood smoothly, and Jasmine noticed for the first time how tall he was. How the guards deferred to him with something beyond respect. Something closer to fear. He looked at Soo-yeon with an expression that made Jasmine glad that look wasn't directed at her. There's been a change of plans. A change of, Soo-yeon sputtered. My father will hear about this. The Park family does not tolerate this kind of disrespect. Tell him, Min-jun said simply. Tell him I've made my choice. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Soo-yeon's face went from red to white. You can't be serious. You're choosing this random woman over an alliance with the Park family. I don't recall asking for your opinion on my choices. Min-jun's tone was ice. My assistant will contact your father with my regrets. Goodbye, Soo-yeon. It was a dismissal. Final and absolute. Soo-yeon looked between them, her expression promising retribution. You'll regret this, she said, but she was already backing away, already retreating. One of the guards escorted her to the door, polite but immovable. The moment she was gone, Jasmine found her voice. Wait, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Min-jun sat back down, gesturing for her to do the same. When she hesitated, he added, Please, sit. It wasn't a request. Jasmine sat. You orchestrated that beautifully, Min-jun said, and there was something like admiration in his voice. Taking the table early, forcing the confrontation, making me choose in front of witnesses. Bold. Very bold. I didn't. The Park family has been pushing for this alliance for months. I've been looking for a way out without starting a war. He smiled, and it was sharp enough to draw blood. You just gave me the perfect excuse. A prior commitment. A relationship that predates their proposal. He leaned back, studying her like she was a chess piece that had just made an unexpected move. Tell me, who sent you? The Jindo clan? The Busan Syndicate? Jasmine's head was spinning. Clans? Syndicates? Nobody sent me. I'm just a photographer from Atlanta who sat at the wrong table. Min-jun laughed. Actually laughed. It was a sound that didn't match his face, genuine and almost warm. Still playing it close. I respect that. But you can drop the act now. We're past pretense. This isn't an act, Jasmine insisted, desperation creeping into her voice. I'm supposed to be meeting my friend Derek upstairs at table 7. I saw the reservation sign, thought it was for me, and sat down. That's it. That's the whole story. The laughter died. Min-jun's expression shifted, became unreadable. He studied her for a long moment, and Jasmine felt like he was peeling back layers of her soul with those dark eyes. You're serious, he said finally. Yes, Jasmine breathed. I've been trying to tell you. His phone rang again. This time when he looked at the screen, his jaw tightened. He answered in Korean again, but his tone was different. Sharper. Urgent. He stood abruptly. I have to go. There's a situation that requires my immediate attention. Relief flooded through Jasmine. Finally, she could leave, find Derek, pretend this insane afternoon never happened. But Min-jun was already gesturing to one of his guards. Junho will give you my card and a phone. Have dinner with me tonight. 8 p.m. My driver will collect you from your hotel. I don't think. It's not a request, Jasmine Williams. Her name sounded different in his accent, all the consonants sharp and precise. You've complicated my life significantly in the last half hour. The least you can do is let me buy you dinner. How did he know her name? She hadn't told him her name. Before she could ask, he was gone, his guards flowing around him like water, and Jasmine was left sitting at the wrong table with a business card that simply read Kang Min-jun, with a phone number, and a sleek black phone that probably cost more than her camera. A phone that immediately buzzed with a text message. Don't even think about running. I know which hotel you're staying at. See you at 8. MJ. Jasmine's hands were shaking. Girl, there you are. Derek's voice made her jump. He slid into the seat Min-jun had vacated, his familiar face a anchor to reality. I texted you I was upstairs. Why are you down here? Jasmine looked at her friend, this normal person from her normal life, and couldn't find the words. How did you explain that you'd accidentally crashed a mafia boss's blind date? Derek, she said slowly. I think I just made a terrible mistake. 20 minutes later, they were in Derek's apartment, Jasmine pacing while Derek frantically Googled on his laptop. Okay, don't panic, Derek said, though his voice suggested he was the one panicking. Kang Min-jun. Let's see what we're dealing with. The initial results were innocuous enough. CEO of Kang Industries. Youngest person to ever head the company at 32. Philanthropist. Photos of him at charity galas, business conferences, shaking hands with politicians. Then Derek clicked on a Reddit thread, and the tone changed completely. Don't cross the Kang family unless you have a death wish. Baekdu faction runs half of Seoul's underground through Kang Industries. My cousin worked security for one of their warehouses. Quit after 3 months. Won't talk about what he saw. The Kangs are old money and old power. The kind that doesn't show up in police reports. Jasmine felt the coffee from earlier threatening to make a reappearance. This can't be real. Things like this don't happen to people like me. You embarrassed him in front of his actual blind date, Derek said, scrolling through more threads. You made him reject an alliance with the Park family, who according to this are major players in Seoul's corporate world. Jazz, do you understand what you've done? It was an accident. Doesn't matter. Derek's face was pale. You need to tell him the truth. Tonight at dinner, you explain everything, apologize profusely, and pray he finds it charming instead of insulting. And if he doesn't find it charming? Derek didn't answer, but his expression said everything. Jasmine looked at the phone Min-jun had left with her. What if I just don't go? What if I pack my stuff and catch the next flight back to Atlanta? He knows your hotel. He probably knows your passport number, your flight information, everything. These people have resources, Jazz. Derek grabbed her shoulders. You have to face this. Go to dinner. Be honest. Be humble. And maybe, just maybe, he'll let you walk away. If you're wondering whether Jasmine should run or stay, drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button because this story is about to get even crazier. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of anxiety. Jasmine tried to work on her photos but couldn't focus. Tried to eat but had no appetite. Tried to convince herself this was all some bizarre misunderstanding that would be cleared up over a polite dinner. At 7:30, she stood in front of her hotel mirror, trying to decide what you wore to dinner with a possible crime lord. Professional? Casual? Did it even matter? She settled on a simple black dress, her natural hair in twists, minimal makeup. If this was going to be her last night in Seoul, she'd at least look like herself. At exactly 8 p.m., her hotel phone rang. Miss Williams, your car is here. The driver was the same stoic man from the cafe, the one Min-jun had called Junho. He held the door of a black Mercedes open for her, his face revealing nothing. The drive through Seoul's nighttime traffic felt surreal. Neon signs reflected off the car's tinted windows. Jasmine rehearsed her explanation in her head. I'm so sorry. It was an honest mistake. I never meant to cause any trouble. They pulled up to a building in Gangnam, sleek and modern, with a rooftop restaurant that glowed against the night sky. Junho escorted her to a private elevator that required a keycard to operate. The elevator opened directly into the restaurant, and Jasmine's breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Seoul's glittering skyline. The space was empty except for one table set for two, candles flickering in the center. Soft music played from hidden speakers. The entire restaurant had been reserved for them. Min-jun stood by the window, his back to her, hands in his pockets. He'd changed into a dark sweater and slacks, less formal than the suit, but somehow more intimidating. More real. Jasmine, he said without turning around. Right on time. I'm starting to see a pattern. Mr. Kang, I need to explain. Min-jun, he corrected, finally facing her. We're past formalities, don't you think? Please sit. Jasmine approached the table on unsteady legs. A waiter appeared from nowhere, poured wine she didn't remember ordering, then vanished like a ghost. I had them prepare a tasting menu, Min-jun said, taking his seat across from her. Korean fusion with French techniques. I hope you're not vegetarian. I'm not, but good. The chef here is exceptional. He trained under 3 Michelin star restaurants in Paris before I convinced him to come back to Seoul. Min-jun picked up his wine glass, swirled it absently. He owes me a favor. Most people in this city do. The casual way he said it made Jasmine's skin prickle. Min-jun, please. I need to tell you something important. I'm listening. He set down his glass, gave her his full attention. Those dark eyes pinned her in place. This was it. Truth or consequences. This afternoon at the cafe, I wasn't. The window behind Min-jun exploded. Glass shattered inward as gunfire erupted, the sharp crack of bullets cutting through the romantic music. Min-jun moved faster than Jasmine's brain could process, throwing himself across the table and tackling her to the floor. They hit the ground hard, Min-jun's body covering hers as more windows shattered. She could feel his heart beating against her back, could smell his cologne mixed with the acrid scent of gunpowder. Stay down, he growled in her ear, and then he was moving, pulling her behind the dubious cover of an overturned table. Junho and 3 other guards burst from the elevator, weapons drawn, returning fire toward the building across the street. The exchange was deafening, happening so fast Jasmine couldn't track individual shots. Min-jun had a gun. She didn't know when he'd drawn it, but it was in his hand now, and he was talking rapidly into a phone in Korean, his free hand pressed against her shoulder, keeping her down. How many? He barked in English to Junho. At least 4 shooters, sir. Sniper rifles. Jindo clan markings on the shell casings. Of course it is. Min-jun's jaw tightened. They're not wasting any time. Another volley of shots. One of the guards grunted, stumbled. Blood bloomed across his shoulder, but he kept firing. Jasmine's ears were ringing. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen in real life. She was a photographer from Atlanta. She took pictures of buildings and street food. She didn't get caught in shootouts. We need to move, Junho said. Now, sir. Min-jun nodded, then looked down at Jasmine. His expression had transformed completely. Gone was the charming businessman. This was someone else entirely. Someone hard and dangerous and utterly focused on survival. When I say run, you run to the elevator. Don't look back. Don't hesitate. Understand. Jasmine couldn't form words. She just nodded. Good girl. He squeezed her shoulder once, then shouted something in Korean. The guards laid down covering fire, a wall of bullets toward the opposite building. Min-jun hauled Jasmine to her feet, his arm around her waist, half carrying her toward the elevator. They made it 3 steps before she heard the shot. Different from the others. Closer. Min-jun jerked, stumbled. His hand went to his side, came away red. No. Jasmine heard herself scream, though her voice sounded far away. But he didn't stop moving. His grip on her tightened, and he shoved her into the elevator. Junho and 2 guards piled in after them, still firing. The doors closed on the chaos, and the elevator plummeted downward. Min-jun slumped against the wall, his hand pressed to his side. Blood seeped between his fingers, dark against his sweater. Sir, Junho started. I'm fine. Just grazed. But Min-jun's face had gone pale, and his breathing was shallow. Jasmine's photographer instincts kicked in, the part of her brain that stayed calm in crisis to capture the perfect shot. She pushed past her terror and looked at the wound. He was right. It was a graze, but a deep one. He needed pressure on it. Without thinking, she pulled off her cardigan, wadded it up, and pressed it against his side. Min-jun hissed in pain, but didn't push her away. You need a hospital, she said. No hospitals. Too exposed. He looked at Junho. Safe House 3. The one in Itaewon. The elevator opened into an underground garage. A different car was waiting, engine already running. They were inside and moving before Jasmine could process what was happening. She kept pressure on Min-jun's wound as the car raced through Seoul's streets, running red lights, taking turns that made her stomach lurch. Behind them, she could see 2 more black cars following, their guards running interference. What the hell was that? She finally managed to ask. Min-jun laughed, but it turned into a cough. That was the Jindo clan sending a message. When you rejected the Park family alliance this afternoon, you shifted the power balance in Seoul. Soo-yeon's father runs with the Jindo. They're not happy about losing their foothold in my organization. But I didn't. I'm not. Jasmine struggled to form coherent thoughts. I'm not part of your organization. They don't know that. Min-jun's eyes met hers, and even injured and bleeding, they were intense. As far as Seoul's underworld is concerned, you're my new alliance. My chosen partner. Which makes you a target. The words hit her like a physical blow. No, this is insane. I need to tell you the truth. This afternoon was a mistake. I sat at the wrong table. I'm not who you think I am. I'm just a photographer. Min-jun stared at her for a long moment. Then, impossibly, he started laughing again. Really laughing, despite the pain it clearly caused. You're telling me, he gasped between laughs, that this entire disaster started because you sat at the wrong table? Yes. Jasmine was almost crying now. I was supposed to meet my friend Derek. I saw the reservation sign and thought it was for me. I never meant to crash your blind date or reject anyone or start a gang war. The laughter died slowly, replaced by something Jasmine couldn't quite read. Min-jun studied her face like he was seeing her for the first time. Really seeing her. You're serious, he said, echoing his words from the cafe. You're actually telling me the truth. I've been trying to tell you since you sat down. Jasmine's voice cracked. But then you kept talking, and those guards were everywhere. And that woman showed up, and you made all these assumptions about who I was and why I was there. And I was too scared to correct you, because you're clearly dangerous. And now people are shooting at us, and you're bleeding, and I just want to go home. The words tumbled out in a rush. Months of soul stress and culture shock and loneliness mixing with tonight's terror into one massive breakdown. She was crying now, properly crying, and she couldn't seem to stop. Min-jun reached up with his free hand, his fingers surprisingly gentle as he wiped a tear from her cheek. Breathe, Jasmine. Just breathe. Don't tell me to breathe. People just tried to kill us. People try to kill me regularly. It's part of the job description. His thumb traced along her jaw, and his voice softened. But you're right. This isn't your world. You shouldn't be here. The car pulled into an underground garage beneath a sleek apartment building. Junho was out first, scanning the area before opening Min-jun's door. 2 guards stayed with the car, while the others formed a protective circle around them. Min-jun tried to stand on his own and nearly fell. Jasmine caught him instinctively, his weight heavy against her shoulder. Stubborn, she muttered. Practical, he corrected, but he didn't pull away. They took a service elevator to the top floor. The penthouse was all clean lines and expensive minimalism, the kind of space that appeared in architecture magazines. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Seoul, and Jasmine wondered absently if having this many windows was a security risk, given what had just happened. Junho helped Min-jun to a leather couch, while another guard pulled out a first aid kit that looked more like a military field medic setup. I've got it, Jasmine said, surprising herself. Her hands were steadier now, purpose overriding panic. I took a wilderness first aid course for a photography expedition in Montana. I know how to clean and dress a wound. Min-jun raised an eyebrow, but nodded to his guards. They stepped back, hovering nearby, but giving her space. Jasmine knelt beside the couch, carefully peeling away the blood-soaked cardigan and Min-jun's ruined sweater. The graze was ugly, a deep furrow across his ribs, but the bullet hadn't penetrated. She cleaned it with antiseptic from the kit, her movements methodical and careful. Min-jun didn't flinch, though his jaw tightened. You're good at this. I'm good at staying calm in crisis mode. I panic later. She applied antibiotic ointment, started wrapping gauze. Usually while eating ice cream and watching bad TV. What flavor ice cream? The question was so unexpected that Jasmine almost laughed. Rocky Road. What? I'm trying to picture it. You, on your couch in Atlanta, eating ice cream and processing trauma. His eyes were half closed, whether from pain or exhaustion, she couldn't tell. It's a nice image. Normal. Safe. Unlike this. Jasmine secured the bandage with medical tape. You should still see a doctor. I have a doctor on retainer. He'll be here within the hour. Min-jun caught her wrist gently as she started to pull away. Thank you. For not running when the shooting started. For keeping pressure on the wound. For this. His hand was warm against her skin. Jasmine's heart was doing something complicated in her chest, something that had nothing to do with fear. I couldn't just let you bleed, she said quietly. Most people would have. He released her wrist, settled back against the couch. In my world, self-preservation trumps everything else. Junho cleared his throat. Sir, I've secured the perimeter and contacted our people. The Jindo shooters scattered when police arrived. No casualties on our side beyond your injury and Park's shoulder wound. Good. Have Park see the doctor after me. Min-jun's tone shifted, became businesslike. What about the restaurant? Covered as a gas explosion. We own the building, so there won't be questions. The chef and staff have been compensated for their silence. And Miss Williams's hotel. Jasmine's head snapped up. What about my hotel? Min-jun and Junho exchanged a look. The Jindo clan now knows you're connected to me, Min-jun said carefully. They'll have eyes on every location associated with you. Your hotel isn't safe. So what am I supposed to do? I can't just disappear. I have assignments, clients, a life. You'll stay here. Under protection. When Jasmine opened her mouth to protest, Min-jun held up a hand. It's not a request. You're in danger because of me, because of a misunderstanding that I perpetuated. I won't have your death on my conscience. My friend Derek will be informed that you're safe and unavailable. Junho will make sure he's not targeted as leverage. Jasmine stood abruptly, pacing to the windows. Seoul sprawled below her, millions of lights in the darkness, and she'd never felt more trapped. This is insane. Yesterday, my biggest problem was whether I had enough good shots for my portfolio. Now I'm hiding from a crime syndicate because I sat at the wrong table. I know. Min-jun's voice was closer than she expected. She turned to find him standing behind her, moving too well for someone who'd just been shot. And I'm sorry. Truly. If I'd listened when you tried to explain at the cafe, none of this would have happened. Why didn't you listen? Because people don't usually tell me the truth. They tell me what they think I want to hear, what will benefit them, what will keep them safe. He studied her reflection in the window. You were different from the start. Authentic. It threw me off balance. So you assumed I was playing some elaborate game? In my world, everyone's playing a game. The trick is figuring out the rules before you lose. He turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. But you weren't playing at all, were you? You were just Jasmine Williams from Atlanta, sitting at the wrong table. Just Jasmine Williams from Atlanta, she repeated, and the absurdity of it hit her again. Who somehow started a gang war by accident. Not a war. Not yet. Min-jun's mouth quirked. More like a very aggressive negotiation. People shot at us. That's how aggressive negotiations work in Seoul's underworld. Jasmine pulled away from him, needing space to think. This can't be my life right now. I need to call the embassy, get on a flight home, forget any of this ever happened. The moment you step into an airport, you're exposed. The Jindo clan has people everywhere. Police, government officials, airport security. Min-jun's expression was grim. I can protect you here. Out there, you're on your own. So I'm a prisoner? You're a guest under protective custody. He moved to a cabinet, poured 2 glasses of whiskey with his non-injured side, handed her one. There's a difference. Jasmine took the glass, but didn't drink. For how long? Until I can neutralize the threat or convince the Jindo clan you're not worth the trouble. He downed his whiskey in one swallow, grimaced. Could be days. Could be weeks. Weeks. Jasmine's voice pitched higher. I have a life, Min-jun. I have clients waiting for photos, rent due back home, a cat being watched by my neighbor who's probably wondering why I'm not answering her texts. You have a cat. That's what you're focusing on right now. I like cats. What's its name? Jasmine stared at him. Here she was, in a crime lord's penthouse, hiding from assassins, and they were discussing her cat. Kimchi. I named her after the first Korean food I tried. Min-jun laughed, and the sound was warmer than the whiskey. Of course you did. Very fitting for someone who stumbles into the Korean underworld by accident. Despite everything, Jasmine felt her lips twitch. Don't make me laugh right now. I'm supposed to be terrified and angry. You can be both and still laugh. It's allowed. He set his empty glass down, and his expression sobered. I know this isn't fair. None of this is. But I promise you, I will fix this. You'll go home to your cat, and your ice cream, and your normal life. And what happens to you? The question surprised them both. Min-jun tilted his head, studying her. What do you mean? After I leave. After this is resolved. You go back to your life of business deals and blind dates set up by your grandmother and people trying to kill you over dinner. That's always been my life. He said it simply, without self-pity. I was born into the Kang family. This world chose me before I could choose it. That's sad. That's reality. But something flickered in his eyes, something that might have been longing. Not everyone gets to be Jasmine Williams from Atlanta, free to chase photography dreams across the world. Before Jasmine could respond, Junho knocked on the doorframe. Sir, the doctor is here. And we have another situation. Min-jun's expression shifted instantly back to business mode. What kind of situation? Park Soo-yeon's father is demanding a meeting. Tonight. He's threatening to align fully with the Jindo clan if you refuse. Of course he is. Min-jun rubbed his temples. Where does he want to meet? Neutral ground. The Golden Phoenix restaurant in Yeonggu. 1 hour. That's not enough time to prepare proper security, Jasmine said, then wondered why she cared. Why she was thinking about his safety instead of her own escape. Min-jun noticed. His eyes softened as they met hers. You're right. But if I don't show, it confirms weakness. In this world, perceived weakness is actual weakness. So you're going to walk into a potential trap less than an hour after being shot. The wound is superficial. The doctor will patch me up, and I'll be fine. You're insane. Frequently. He turned to Junho. Accept the meeting. Full security detail. And send a gift to Park's residence. Something expensive, but not desperate. Scotch, maybe. The 50-year-old Macallan. Junho nodded and disappeared. The doctor entered, a slight man with efficient hands and no questions. He examined Min-jun's wound, declared Jasmine's field dressing adequate, and added proper stitches while discussing the weather. Jasmine watched from across the room, her mind racing. She should be planning her escape, finding a way to contact Derek, the embassy, someone who could extract her from this nightmare. Instead, she was worrying about whether Min-jun should attend a dangerous meeting with a bullet graze in his side. When had that happened? When had she started to care? The doctor finished, packed his supplies, accepted a discreet envelope from Junho, and left as silently as he'd arrived. Min-jun stood, testing his range of motion, then headed toward what she assumed was his bedroom. "There's a guest room down the hall," he called over his shoulder. "Second door on the left. You'll find clothes in the closet that should fit. My sister stays here sometimes." "You have a sister?" He paused in his doorway, smiled slightly. "I have two. And a brother. All safely removed from the family business, living normal lives in other countries. My father's one good decision. Why didn't you get removed too? Someone had to stay. Someone had to be the heir." His smile faded. "And I was the oldest. The choice was made before I was old enough to understand what it meant." He disappeared into his room before Jasmine could respond. She found the guest room easily. It was smaller than the main living area, but still luxurious, all soft grays and whites, with an ensuite bathroom that probably cost more than her entire apartment back home. The closet did indeed have clothes, expensive casual wear in her size. Min-jun's sister had good taste. Jasmine showered, scrubbing off the day's chaos, watching pink-tinged water circle the drain from Min-jun's blood on her hands. When she emerged, wrapped in a plush robe, she found her phone on the bedside table, fully charged. Unlocked. She could call anyone. The embassy. Derek. Her mom back in Atlanta. Report everything and demand extraction. Instead, she found herself Googling Kang Min-jun again. This time, she dug deeper. Articles about Kang Industries' charitable work. Scholarships for underprivileged students. Donations to children's hospitals. A photo of a younger Min-jun, maybe 25, at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a community center in a poor neighborhood. Then the darker stuff. Reddit threads about the Baekdu faction's territory. Whispered stories of rivals who disappeared. Business deals that went through despite legal obstacles. The kind of power that existed in shadows. But also, stories of protection. Shop owners in certain neighborhoods who never got harassed by other gangs. Workers who got fair wages when other companies exploited them. A kind of brutal honor. Who was Kang Min-jun really? If you're as conflicted as Jasmine right now, let me know in the comments. Should she trust Min-jun or find a way to escape? And don't forget to let me know where you are watching from. A knock on her door pulled Jasmine from her research spiral. She opened it to find Junho holding a tray with covered dishes. "Mr. Kang thought you might be hungry," he said in careful English. "You didn't get to eat dinner." Jasmine had forgotten about food entirely, but at the mention of it, her stomach growled. She accepted the tray, noting the way Junho's eyes scanned the hallway even in this supposedly secure building. Always alert. Always watching. "Thank you," she said. Then, because she needed to know, "How long have you worked for him?" Junho's expression remained neutral. 12 years. Since we were both 20. And in 12 years, has he ever brought someone here? To this safe house? Something flickered across Junho's face. "No, Miss Williams. You're the first." He left before she could ask anything else. The food was Korean comfort food. Bibimbap with perfectly cooked egg, kimchi jjigae still steaming, small dishes of banchan. Jasmine ate mechanically, tasting nothing, her mind still on Junho's words. She was the first person Min-jun had brought to his safe house in 12 years. What did that mean? She was washing her face, preparing for a sleep she knew wouldn't come, when she heard raised voices from the main room. Korean, too fast for her limited understanding, but she recognized Min-jun's tone. Angry, frustrated. Jasmine cracked her door open. Min-jun was on the phone, pacing despite his injury, one hand gesturing sharply as he spoke. He'd changed into a fresh black suit, his hair styled, looking every inch the powerful CEO. But there was tension in his shoulders, a tightness around his eyes. He ended the call, threw the phone on the couch with more force than necessary. "Problem?" Jasmine asked from the doorway. Min-jun turned, and for a moment his mask slipped. He looked tired. "Young. Human. Park is backing out of the meeting. Says he won't negotiate with someone who disrespects tradition by choosing a foreigner over his daughter. I'm sorry." And she meant it, even though none of this was really her fault. Don't be. He was always going to align with the Jindo clan. This just gave him a convenient excuse. Min-jun loosened his tie with a sharp tug. "The real problem is what it signals to the other families. That I'm weak. That I make rash decisions based on emotion rather than strategy. Are you? Making rash decisions based on emotion? He looked at her for a long moment. I don't know anymore. This afternoon, keeping you as my supposed alliance made strategic sense. It ended an unwanted arrangement and sent a message that I won't be manipulated. But now, he trailed off. Now it's a disaster. Now it's complicated. He moved to the window, stared out at Seoul's lights. The smart play is to publicly disavow you. Claim you deceived me, that I discovered the truth and ended things. It would restore my credibility and remove the target from your back. Jasmine's chest tightened. Then why don't you? Because it would paint you as a con artist who tried to infiltrate the Kang family. The other families would see you as a loose end. A liability. You'd never be safe, not in Seoul, maybe not anywhere. So I'm damned either way. Welcome to my world. Every choice has a price. Min-jun turned back to face her. There is a third option, which is, we continue the charade. You stay as my partner, my alliance. I protect you. You provide legitimacy to my rejection of the Park family. We maintain the fiction long enough for things to stabilize, then orchestrate a quiet separation that saves face for everyone. How long is long enough? Months. Maybe 6. Maybe more. He watched her carefully. I know it's asking too much. Your whole life is in Atlanta. Your cat, your career, your freedom. I have no right to ask you to put that on hold. But you're asking anyway. I'm offering. There's a difference. He moved closer, and Jasmine caught the scent of his cologne again, mixed with antiseptic from the doctor's work. If you agree, I'll compensate you. Enough to set up your photography business properly when you return home. Enough to never worry about rent again. And I'll keep you safe. That's not negotiable regardless of your choice, but it's easier if we're on the same side. Jasmine should have said no. Should have demanded he find another solution that didn't involve her playing pretend Mafia wife for half a year. But she thought about her cramped Atlanta apartment, the constant hustle for clients, the way her bank account always seemed to hover near zero. She thought about her photography, the dream she'd put on hold because survival took priority. And she thought about Min-jun, trapped in a life he'd inherited, surrounded by people who feared or wanted to use him, never sure who to trust. If I agree, she said slowly, I have conditions. Interest sparked in his eyes. Name them. First, I want access to Seoul. Real access. Not just this penthouse. I'm a photographer. If I'm going to be here for months, I need to work. Agreed, with security. Second, you're honest with me. About everything. The business, the families, the threats. No more assumptions or misunderstandings. That's difficult, but I'll try. Not good enough. You will be honest, or I walk. Consequences be damned. A smile tugged at Min-jun's mouth. You drive a hard bargain for someone with no leverage. I have the leverage of truth. You said it yourself. Authenticity is rare in your world. So if you want me to play this part, you get the real me. Honest, stubborn, and absolutely terrible at playing political games. I'm starting to see the appeal of that. He extended his hand. Deal. 6 months, full honesty, and you get your freedom back with enough money to build the life you want. Jasmine looked at his hand. This was insane. This was absolutely, completely, utterly insane. She shook it anyway. Min-jun's grip was firm, warm. He held on a moment longer than necessary. Thank you, Jasmine Williams from Atlanta. For not running. For not being sensible. For being exactly who you are. You might regret this when you realize how stubborn I actually am. I'm counting on it. Stubborn might be exactly what we need. Junho appeared in the doorway, his expression urgent. Sir, we have a situation. Someone breached the building's perimeter. 3rd floor access point. Min-jun's entire demeanor shifted. How many? Unknown. Security cameras went dark 2 minutes ago. Get Miss Williams to the panic room. Now. Min-jun was already moving, pulling a gun from a hidden drawer. Full lockdown protocol. I'm not hiding in a panic room while you. Jasmine started. This isn't negotiable. Min-jun's voice was steel. Junho, take her. That's an order. Junho had her arm before she could protest, pulling her toward a section of wall that slid open to reveal a reinforced door. A panic room. Of course he had a panic room. Min-jun, Jasmine tried. He looked back at her, and his expression was softer than his voice. I keep my promises, Jasmine. I said I'd keep you safe. Let me do that. Then Junho was pushing her into the panic room, a small space with monitors showing different angles of the penthouse, supplies, weapons, a phone line. The door sealed with a heavy thunk, and Jasmine was alone with the monitors and her racing heart. She pressed her face to the screens, watching Junho take position near the elevator while Min-jun coordinated with other guards through an earpiece. On the monitors, she could see the main living area, the hallway, the elevator bank. Everything looked normal. Quiet. Too quiet. Then movement on the stairwell camera. 3 figures in black, faces covered, moving with military precision. They bypassed the elevator entirely, coming up through the emergency stairs. Jasmine's hands shook as she grabbed the phone in the panic room. There had to be someone she could call. Police? But Min-jun said the police were compromised. The embassy? By the time they mobilized, this would be over, one way or another. On screen, Min-jun gestured to his guards. They took positions, weapons ready. Jasmine counted 4 guards total, including Junho, against 3 intruders. The math should have been in their favor. But she'd seen enough action movies to know numbers didn't always matter. The first intruder appeared in the hallway camera's view. He moved like water, fast and fluid. Junho fired, but the intruder was already rolling, coming up with his own weapon. The gunfight erupted in bursts of muzzle flash on the black and white monitors. Jasmine couldn't hear it through the panic room's soundproofing, which somehow made it worse. Silent violence, like watching a movie with the sound off. One of Min-jun's guards went down. Then another. Junho was bleeding from his arm, but still fighting. Min-jun moved with unexpected grace for someone who'd been shot hours ago, using furniture for cover, his shots precise and controlled. But the intruders were professionals. Jasmine could see it in the way they moved, the way they coordinated without visible signals. This wasn't a random attack. This was an execution team. One of them was flanking, moving toward the hallway where the panic room was hidden. Moving toward her, Jasmine looked around the small space. She had monitors, supplies, weapons she didn't know how to use, and a phone. Her photographer's brain kicked in, the part that stayed calm and observed. The intruder moving toward her was smaller than the others, lighter on their feet. They moved past the third camera, and for just a moment, Jasmine saw their profile. A woman, and something about her stance was familiar. Jasmine grabbed the phone, dialed the only number that made sense. Min-jun's cell, which she'd memorized from his business card. He answered on the first ring, breathless. Jasmine, stay in the panic room. The one coming toward me is a woman. 5'6", trained fighter, moving like she knows the building layout. Jasmine kept her voice steady. Min-jun, I think she's been here before. A pause. Then Min-jun's voice, sharp with understanding. My sister's friend. Hae-won. She visited last month. A string of Korean curses. She was scouting. This isn't the Jindo clan. This is the Park family. They're not just cutting ties, they're sending a message. What kind of message? The permanent kind. More gunfire in the background. Jasmine, there's a red lever behind the supply shelf. Pull it. It triggers a building-wide fire alarm and alerts my emergency contacts. Do it now. Jasmine found the lever, pulled hard. Nothing happened in the panic room, but on the monitors, red lights started flashing throughout the penthouse. The effect was immediate. The intruders hesitated, their mission timeline suddenly compressed. The one Min-jun called Hae-won was closest to the panic room, her hand on the section of wall that concealed it. She knew exactly where it was. But the alarm changed her calculation. She pulled back, signaled to the others. They retreated as smoothly as they'd advanced, disappearing into the stairwell. Junho moved to follow, but Min-jun stopped him. On the monitor, Jasmine saw him speak into his earpiece, then holster his weapon. His hand went to his side, to the wound that must be screaming after all that movement. 2 minutes later, the panic room door opened. Min-jun stood there, bloodied but alive, his suit jacket torn, a new cut across his cheekbone. You can come out. They're gone. Jasmine stumbled out, her legs shaky. The living room looked like a war zone. Bullet holes in the walls, furniture overturned, broken glass everywhere. 2 of Min-jun's guards were being tended to by Junho, one with a leg wound, another unconscious but breathing. You were right, Min-jun said, leaning heavily against the wall. Hae-won was Park Soo-yeon's personal bodyguard before she befriended my sister. I brought a scout into my own safe house. Your sister didn't know. No. She's sweet and trusting, and everything I tried to keep separate from this life. His jaw tightened. And now the Parks have used that against us. Against you, Jasmine corrected. I'm just collateral damage. You're the excuse. But the attack was always coming. When I rejected Soo-yeon today, I declared war whether I meant to or not. He looked at her, really looked at her. You saved lives tonight. If you hadn't noticed Hae-won's profile, hadn't made that call, she would have breached the panic room. Used you as leverage. This would have ended very differently. I just did what made sense. Most people panic. You observed, analyzed, acted. He pushed off from the wall, approached her slowly. You're remarkable, Jasmine Williams. I'm terrified. That too. But terrified and remarkable aren't mutually exclusive. He reached out, tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear with surprising gentleness. Thank you. Again. I seem to be saying that a lot. You could stop putting me in situations where you need to thank me. He laughed, soft and exhausted. Where's the fun in that? Sirens wailed in the distance. The fire alarm had done its job, summoning emergency services. Min-jun's expression shifted to business mode. Junho, get the wounded to the car. Use exit route 3. The emergency crews will be here in 5 minutes. He turned to Jasmine. We need to leave. This location is compromised. Where are we going? I have another safe house. Actually safe this time. He grimaced as he moved toward his bedroom. Pack light. We have 3 minutes. Jasmine rushed to the guest room, threw on the clothes from the closet. Jeans, a sweater, sneakers. She grabbed her phone and the few personal items she'd had when she arrived. Her whole life in Seoul reduced to a small bag. When she emerged, Min-jun was waiting by a different elevator, this one concealed behind a bookshelf. Of course there was a secret elevator. They descended in silence. Jasmine's ears were still ringing from the alarm, her mind still processing the fact that she'd just survived her second attempt on her life in one night. How do you live like this? She asked quietly. Always waiting for the next attack, never knowing who to trust. Min-jun didn't answer immediately. The elevator opened into a different underground garage, where a nondescript sedan waited instead of the luxury vehicles from before. You don't live, he finally said, opening her door. You survive. There's a difference. They drove through Seoul's late-night streets in silence. Jasmine watched the city slide past, neon and darkness, beauty and danger existing side by side. Like Min-jun himself. Like this whole impossible situation. The new safe house was in Yongsan, tucked into a residential building that looked aggressively normal. No doorman, no luxury finishes, just a modest apartment building where young professionals and families lived ordinary lives. Less obvious, Min-jun explained as they took a regular elevator to the 8th floor. The parks know about my high-end properties. They won't think to look somewhere middle class. The apartment itself was small by penthouse standards, but comfortable. 2 bedrooms, a living area with worn furniture, a kitchen that looked actually used. It felt lived in, human, real. My grandmother's place, Min-jun said, catching her surprised expression. She refuses to live in what she calls sterile rich people boxes. Says they have no soul. I like your grandmother already. She'd like you too. She has excellent taste in stubborn women. He moved to the kitchen, started brewing tea with movements that spoke of familiarity. She doesn't know about tonight. About any of this. I keep her separate from the business. Like your siblings. Like everyone I actually care about. He poured 2 cups, handed her one. The tea was traditional Korean barley tea, nutty and comforting. It's safer that way. The fewer people connected to me, the fewer targets my enemies have. Jasmine sat at the small kitchen table, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. That sounds lonely. It is what it is. Min-jun sat across from her, and in the apartment's soft lighting, he looked younger. Less like a crime lord, more like a tired man who'd had a very long day. But loneliness is better than getting people killed. Is that what happened? Someone got killed because of you. His expression shuddered. That's a conversation for another time. You promised honesty. We shook on it. I promised to try. But after a moment, he sighed. Her name was Jia, my girlfriend when I was 23, before I fully understood what my life would become. She was normal. Good. Wanted to be a teacher. She saw the best in everyone, including me. Jasmine waited, sensing there was more. The Jindo clan was making a move for our territory in Gangnam. They needed leverage, needed to prove the Kang family wasn't untouchable. His fingers tightened around his cup. They took her, sent pictures, demanded I cede 3 of our most profitable operations in exchange for her safe return. What did you do? I was young and stupid and in love. I agreed immediately. My father was furious, said I was showing weakness, that they'd use this tactic again and again if I gave in. Min-jun's voice was flat, emotionless, but Jasmine could see the pain beneath it. He was right. The moment I agreed to their terms, Jia became worthless as a hostage. They killed her anyway, as a lesson. To show that caring about anyone made you vulnerable. Min-jun, I'm so sorry. After that, I learned. No relationships, no attachments, nothing they could use against me. I became what my father wanted. Cold. Strategic. Untouchable. He looked up, met her eyes. Until a woman from Atlanta sat at my table by accident and reminded me what it felt like to have a real conversation. The air between them felt charged, heavy with things unsaid. Jasmine should have been scared, should have maintained distance. Instead, she reached across the table, covered his hand with hers. I'm not Gia. I'm not fragile or good or particularly trusting. I'm stubborn and skeptical, and I've survived plenty on my own. I've noticed. His hand turned under hers, fingers intertwining. It's refreshing. And terrifying. Why terrifying? Because I've spent 10 years building walls, and you walk through them without even trying. He studied their joined hands. And now I have to keep you alive while figuring out what to do with the Park family and the Jindo clan, who are probably planning their next move as we speak. What will their next move be? Min-jun's phone buzzed before he could answer. He glanced at the screen, his expression hardening. Apparently, it's happening now. The Parks just leaked to the press that I've aligned with a mysterious foreign woman, jilting their daughter. By morning, every news outlet in Seoul will be speculating about who you are. Is that bad? It's a power play. They're forcing my hand, making this public so I can't quietly end things. If I disavow you now, I look weak and indecisive. If I confirm the relationship, I'm committed to a path that makes enemies of both the Park family and anyone allied with them. Jasmine pulled her hand back, wrapped both arms around herself. So what do? We control the narrative. Min-jun was already typing on his phone. If they want to make this public, we go public on our terms. A press release announcing our relationship, carefully worded to imply it's been developing for weeks, that the blind date rejection was because I was already involved with someone else. Won't they know that's a lie? Of course. But lies wrapped in plausible deniability are the currency of Seoul's elite. As long as we maintain the fiction convincingly, it becomes truth. He looked up from his phone. But it means you'll be in the spotlight. Photos, speculation, probably some ugly comments about race and foreigners. Korean tabloids can be vicious. More vicious than people shooting at me. Different kind of weapon. Sometimes worse. He set his phone down. You can still walk away, Jasmine. I'll find another way to handle this. I won't force you into something you're not ready for. Jasmine thought about her quiet life in Atlanta. Her small apartment with kimchi. Her weekend farmers market photo shoots. Safe, predictable, forgettable. Then she thought about tonight. The fear, yes, but also the adrenaline. The way her photographer's brain had engaged, sharp and focused. The way Min-jun looked at her like she was someone remarkable instead of just another struggling artist. Release the statement, she said. But on one condition. Another condition? I'm starting to see a pattern. I want creative control over our public image. If we're going to sell this relationship to Seoul, we do it my way. I'm a photographer. I know how to craft a visual story. Min-jun smiled, genuine and surprised. You want to stage manage our fake relationship. I want to make it believable. There's a difference. Jasmine leaned forward. Rich CEO falls for struggling artist. It's a tale as old as time. But we make it real. Show me in my element, doing my work. Show you as something other than a cold businessman. Give them a love story they can believe in. And you think you can do that? I think if I'm going to lie to all of Seoul, I'm going to do it well. She met his eyes. Besides, I'm already in this deep. Might as well commit. Committing to a lie. Very philosophical. Committing to survival. Very practical. Jasmine stood, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her hollow and shaky. I need sleep. Tomorrow we can figure out how to convince Seoul that we're madly in love. Tomorrow, Min-jun agreed. He stood as well, moved toward the hallway. The bedroom on the right is yours. Clean sheets, bathroom attached. Should have everything you need. Where will you sleep? Couch. I've slept in worse places. Min-jun, you were shot today. Twice if we count the grays from before. Take the bedroom. You're my guest, and my responsibility. The couch is fine. They stared at each other, both too stubborn to back down. This is ridiculous, Jasmine finally said. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. I'll take the left room, you take the right. Problem solved. The left room is my grandmother's. She'd kill me if I let a guest sleep there instead of the actual guest room. Then we're at an impasse. Min-jun's mouth quirked. You really are impossibly stubborn. You say that like it's a flaw. I say it like it's going to make the next 6 months very interesting. He moved past her toward the left bedroom. Fine. I'll take my grandmother's room. But if she shows up and finds out, I'm blaming you. Deal. Jasmine found the guest room exactly as promised. Simple, clean, comfortable. She collapsed onto the bed still fully dressed, her body finally acknowledging what she'd been through. 2 assassination attempts. A fake relationship with a crime lord. A commitment to lie to an entire city. What was her life? Her phone buzzed. Derek, probably frantic by now. She'd ignored his calls during the chaos, and he deserved an explanation. She typed out a carefully worded text. Long story. I'm safe. Can't talk now, but we'll explain soon. Trust me. His response was immediate. Jasmine Marie Williams, what is happening? She smiled despite everything. Derek only used her full name when he was truly worried. I promise I'm okay. Just got caught up in something complicated. We'll call tomorrow. Is this about that guy from the cafe? Yes. The mobster. He's not technically a mobster. More like a businessman with complicated associates. Jazz. I know. Tomorrow. I promise. She set the phone aside before he could respond, closed her eyes, and tried to quiet her racing mind. Somewhere in the apartment, she could hear Min-jun moving around, the soft sounds of someone trying to be quiet in an unfamiliar space. Sleep should have been impossible. Instead, exhaustion pulled her under like a wave. She woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a disoriented moment, she didn't know where she was. Then memory crashed back. Seoul. Safe house. Min-jun. Jasmine found him in the kitchen, dressed in casual clothes that made him look disturbingly normal. Jeans, a simple black shirt, his hair slightly mussed from sleep. He was cooking eggs with the ease of someone who actually knew his way around a kitchen. You cook? She said from the doorway. He glanced over his shoulder. My grandmother insisted all her grandchildren learn. Said a person who can't feed themselves is helpless regardless of how much money they have. He plated the eggs with practiced efficiency. Hungry, Jasmine realized she was starving. She hadn't eaten properly since the bibimbap in the panic room, which felt like a lifetime ago. Yes. They ate in companionable silence. The eggs were perfect, fluffy, and seasoned just right. Jasmine tried not to think about how domestic this felt, sitting in a sunny kitchen eating breakfast with a man who'd been shot protecting her less than 12 hours ago. The statement went out an hour ago, Min-jun said, breaking the silence. He pulled up his phone, showed her a press release in Korean with an English translation below. Kang Industries CEO confirms new relationship, the headline read. The statement was vague but effective, mentioning a meaningful connection with an American photographer that had developed over recent weeks, explaining the cancellation of other social obligations. How's it playing? Jasmine asked. Exactly as expected. Half the comments are supportive. Half are calling me everything from a traitor to Korean tradition to an idiot for choosing a foreigner over a proper alliance. He scrolled through what she assumed were Korean news sites. The Parks are quoted as being disappointed but respectful of personal choices, which is code for planning revenge. And the Jindo clan? Quiet, which is more concerning than if they'd made a public statement. He set his phone down. Silence from them usually means they're planning something that requires discretion. So we're still in danger. We were always going to be in danger. The question is how we manage it. Min-jun leaned back in his chair, studying her. Today, we start building your public presence. I have a photographer friend who owes me a favor. He'll do a shoot with us, something casual and authentic for the press. Then we'll be seen at a few public places. Dinner, maybe a gallery. You're taking me on dates to convince Seoul we're dating. Essentially, yes. He smiled slightly. Consider it research for your visual story. You said you wanted creative control. I did say that, didn't I? Jasmine pushed her empty plate away. Okay, let's do this right. No stiff formal photos. No corporate couple nonsense. If we're selling a love story, we need to look like actual humans who actually like each other. You don't think we look like we like each other? I think we look like two people who met yesterday under insane circumstances and are desperately trying to survive. She stood, started clearing the table. Which is true, but not the story we're telling. So what story are we telling? Jasmine thought about it while washing the dishes, Min-jun beside her drying them with a dish towel that had his grandmother's initials embroidered on it. Another small, human detail that didn't fit the crime lord image. We're telling the story of two people from completely different worlds who found something real in the chaos, she said finally. You, tired of fake people playing political games. Me, looking for authentic human connection in a foreign city. We met by accident, probably somewhere unexpected, and despite every logical reason not to, we fell for each other. That's... Min-jun paused, dish towel in hand. Actually not that far from the truth. The best lies are the ones closest to reality. Jasmine met his eyes. Besides, I'm not a good enough actor to fake something completely fabricated. So we find the truth in the lie and build from there. You've thought about this. I couldn't sleep. Neither could I. He set down the towel, moved closer. Close enough that Jasmine could see the cut on his cheekbone from last night, the faint shadows under his eyes. Jasmine, before we do this, before we commit to this public performance, I need you to understand something. What? Once we start, there's no easy way to stop. Your face will be in every newspaper, every gossip blog. People will dig into your past, your family, everything about you. They'll say terrible things. They'll judge you for being with me, for being foreign, for existing. His expression was serious, almost grim. I can protect you from physical threats, but I can't protect you from that. Are you sure you want this? Jasmine should have been terrified. A smart person would have run. But she thought about Derek's words from yesterday. Sometimes you had to choose the chaos, because the alternative was a safe, small life that never challenged you to become more than you were. I'm sure, she said. But Min-jun. Yes. When this is over, when the 6 months are up and we orchestrate our quiet separation, what happens to us? Do we just stop? Pretend we never met? The question hung between them, heavy with implications neither of them was ready to examine too closely. I don't know, Min-jun admitted. I've never planned that far ahead with anyone before. Then I guess we figure it out as we go. Together? Together. His phone buzzed insistently. Min-jun glanced at it, and his expression shifted. The photographer can meet us in 2 hours at Iwa Mural Village. It's public, pretty, good lighting for photos. And good sightlines for security? Jasmine guessed. That too. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Welcome to dating in my world. Romance and tactical planning, hand in hand. 2 hours later, Jasmine found herself in one of Seoul's most picturesque neighborhoods. Painted murals covering walls and staircases, art installations tucked into every corner. The photographer, a tired-looking man named Jiho, positioned them on a staircase covered in flowering vines. Natural, he directed. Like you're just walking together, enjoying the day. Min-jun's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. His palm was warm, slightly calloused. Jasmine wondered what his hands had done, what violence they'd committed. But in this moment, they just felt human. Smile, Jiho called. You're supposed to be in love. Jasmine looked up at Min-jun, found him already looking down at her. Something passed between them, something that felt dangerously close to real. This is fake, she reminded herself. This is all fake. But Min-jun's thumb was tracing circles on the back of her hand, and his expression had softened into something tender and unguarded, and Jasmine realized with sudden, startling clarity that the line between performance and reality was already beginning to blur. In the distance, on a rooftop across from them, someone was watching. A figure with a camera of their own, not taking artistic shots but surveillance photos. The Jindo clan was moving, and Jasmine and Min-jun, so focused on performing love for Seoul's public, didn't notice the real danger circling closer. Have you ever wondered what happens when the lie becomes the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've made it this far, you need to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because part 2 is going to take this story to places you won't believe. Trust me, the real danger hasn't even started yet. Like this video if you're hooked, and let me know what you think Jasmine should do when she discovers just how deep the Jindo clan's plans really go. See you in part 2.